The global order has entered its fastest turbulent period since World War II, and while we do not yet know what the future will look like, it is certain that in the past people used to use the concept of decade to look at international relations. But now, who still use 10 years to judge the future, who must be the loser? At present, the more appropriate concept span is 5 years or even 3 years. This situation, just like 30 years ago, the investment players are still using the year-month concept of the analysis of the stock market. Later, they were forced to use day as the unit, which led to the game rule of day trader. Today, if you do not use hour, minute as a unit, you cannot be called a stock market expert. In international politics, the old concepts are also rapidly failing, but people are not yet aware of them. For example, the U.S.-China relationship, the relationship between the United States and China. It is still considered as a basic concept to analyze the trend of the world situation until today. Under this concept, people have previously talked about whether the U.S.-China relationship is an integrated relationship or a containment relationship. Moreover, recently, people used the Thucydides trap, the so-called two hegemonies must have a war, or the beginning of the Cold War, to capture the U.S.-China relationship. However, the situation is changing so fast. This article would like to propose a new perspective. Within 2 or 3 years, the so-called U.S.-China relationship may no longer exist in the world, but instead the U.S.-CCP relationship. Of course, the CCP here refers to the Chinese Communist Party. This is not a tongue twister, but rather a substantive meaning. The U.S.-China relationship should have been the relationship between two sovereign countries, the United States of America and the People's Republic of China. However, after 30 years of dealing with it, there is a consensus within the United States. The rival of dealing with the United States is not a country in essence, but a dictatorial group, which has printed a national business card. This plot is a bit like Legend of the White Snake in China. After 30 years of living together, one party finally judges that the other party is a snake with human body, but ultimately a snake cannot evolve into a real human being. Once the conclusion that the CCP does not equal to China is reached, the next question is even more awkward: is China a normal sovereign state? Can the Chinese Communist Party be classified as a political party under the Republican system invented by the West? Can the U.S. government under the real Republican system regard the CCP as the government of the People's Republic of China? In terms of political practice, the United States government of the Republican system can and cannot avoid dealing with any regime on earth. Whether the name card of the regime is the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, or the People's Republic of China. However, the American way of dealing and long-term relationship with each other will make a distinction between policies and means based on the other side's system of dictatorship, party ruling, rule by law, and the rule of law. Once the United States has judged that the object of its dealings is not a normal sovereign state, a normal government, but a regime with self-power and self-interest as its core, their policies and means towards the so-called People's Republic of China will change accordingly. At the moment, the change is subtly underway, although the word U.S.-China relationship is still used in the world. It is believed that within 2 or 3 years, people will clearly realize that the U.S.-China relationship in the past is no longer there, and the rest is U.S.-CCP relationship. At that time, the countries in the U.S. alliance circle will turn to the track of Anglo-CCP relations, Japan-CCP relations, and Australian-CCP relations in terms of ideology and policy. In that famous speech on October 4th, the Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, clearly distinguished between China and the CCP. In fact, it was the first shot to turn the U.S.-China relationship to U.S.-CCP relations. Now, the ball falls on the side of the Chinese Communist Party, and how the CCP responds to the America will determine the speed at which the United States turns. In reality, the internal struggle of the Chinese Communist Party continues to be in a state of white heat, resulting in indecisiveness and dancing bizarre. Taiwan is embarrassed. Once the U.S.-China relationship turns to the U.S.-CCP relations, what would Taiwan want to be? What will the United States want Taiwan to be? How will the Chinese Communist Party treat Taiwan? Taiwan should start thinking about these three big questions.